Hey everyone, Danny Kerr here with Breakthrough Academy, just to make a video on what is Breakthrough Academy. So we get a lot of questions and inquiries from a lot of trades and home service business owners who are looking for a solution for the growth that they're experiencing. A lot of people we work with are growing out of control. They're looking for systems. They're looking for ways to sustain their staff and recruitment processes, and ultimately get themselves a little bit out of the day-to-day so they can have a bit of a life again and make proper profit out of the company. So there's a lot that we do to help with that, and I find it very tough to say it in a 30-second elevator pitch. But I find that in a 20-minute video, we should be able to give you a lot of the facets of how we'll help you, how we'll really work to develop your business and get you kind of out of that day-to-day world, right? So a lot of the guys, we really help them transition from being a doer of all things to more of a builder of good systems and a leader of good people, and that transition is tough to do. Breakthrough Academy, BTA, has really committed itself to helping with that transition. So if you're in a trades or home service business and you're looking for a solution to grow the business more sustainably, we've got a lot here for you, and that's what we're about to get into. So let's get into it. So first off, let me just share my screen and go through some slides here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and go kind of big picture with you first, and then I'll get right down to the nitty gritty of some of the content, the specific things that you'll be interacting with when it comes to the program itself. So we've been around for, at this point of this recording, just over 3 years. We basically have our roots in franchise systems. So for many, many years, me and a bunch of the people on the team have built a painting franchise system, which worked all across Western Canada, was quite scalable, and it helped a lot of us go from being an owner operator in our small little franchise business to, it's at one level for me and a lot of the colleagues I work with now, we actually ran Western Canada together, where we had about 400 staff and oversaw a whole bunch of operations and procedures that had to happen to make that a reality. So that's kind of our background, and our roots is in franchise systems for the painting industry, actually. And what we've done is we've kind of taken this model of what makes franchise systems so successful and now give it to the public, I guess you'd say. So we give you all of your templates, your procedures, your net set ratios that you should be hitting. We give you a lot of coaching and support and mentorship to be able to make sure you're making the right decisions. And we give you a lot of community and just a good culture of other entrepreneurs in the trades to be working with and talking to and sharing ideas with. So the background of what we all went through years and years ago is now being, I guess you'd say, offered to the public, because we saw it work really well for franchises and thought this could probably work for the general public, and that's how the idea got started. So that's kind of who our roots and why we exist. Essentially, our whole mandate is to help professionalize the trades and home service industry. It's a bit of the Wild West. I mean, if we're all honest here, a lot of you running any kind of like a roofing, landscaping, painting, renovations company, you probably know there's a lot of like just roughneck people out there that made up their own rules, and now everyone's competing for space. And it's tough to run a good professional business in this industry unless you really kind of have a leg up on everybody else. And so we're really here to help professionalize the trades and home services. We've got an awesome team. As this video is being recorded right now, we have about 15 people on the team, everything from sales and marketing to help bring you guys in, obviously, but also a massive team on coaching and support and mentorship to really help you guys implement a lot of these systems properly, which we'll go into. So speaking a little bit to who we're looking for as a company, our ideal client is a person, like I've said a few times, in the trades and home service industry. So if you're running a painting business, a landscaping business, a home service business, so something like window cleaning or junk removal or things of that sort, we probably have a model that's going to fit you quite well. We work with people that have field staff that they work with every single day. They have material costs, they have labor expenses, they have a general like field orientation to their business. Most of our businesses have been in business for a few years at this point. We're not working with straight startups. We want people who have been in business usually for 2+ years. I find a lot of guys are kind of 3 to 10 years that kind of work with us, and they're all at this place of like, man, I've built this crazy machine, but it's kind of broken because I built it out of baling twine and duct tape and random assortments of ideas as I grew the company organically. And now it needs a bit of a renovation. It needs to be taken down to the studs. It needs to be rethought through properly so it's actually conducive for the long term. So it's actually conducive for sustainability and for those who want to grow growth. So what that means, a lot of our companies are sitting in like the $1 to $10 million range, especially for builders and roofers. If you're more of a home service company, probably more like 500K to 5 million. You have more jobs going on. You have a smaller average job size, so just a lot more operations to achieve the same thing. About 4 to 25 employees, and probably the most important thing is everyone we work with is very entrepreneurial. right? They identify more as an entrepreneur than as a tradesperson, and they're starting to make that organic transition and looking for sources and ways to think differently about their company and see this as more of a business than just a 9-to-5 job that they've created for themselves, right? So that's who we look to work with, and that's who we gel the best with, I would say. And it really allows the people that we've brought on to have amazing results as well as get along really well. We have 200 companies actively right now that we work with, and having them all talk to each other, communicate with one another, and really get along is a massive value. So that's kind of who would benefit most, and that's who we look for. So to kind of prime today's talk, I thought I would bring up some interesting stats. So every year we do an audit. So 2015, 2016, this was our financial and revenue results from all of our members combined. So there was just under about $300 million being managed that fiscal year with all of our members across the board. We have live updates and access to everyone's financials, so we can see how everyone's doing. We had a 43% revenue increase, a 66% net profit increase, which is massive. That's probably the number I'm most proud of. And then just a really neat back end thing, when we talk to some of these guys and girls and we talk to some of their families about what's actually changed in their lives and their businesses, they finally have space to live again. I'm sure a lot of you have started a business and realized it's kind of taken over your entire life. It's consuming all different areas of who you are now. And you almost forgot what it's like to do simple things like hang out with your kids and walk the dog and just do normal stuff. And building a business system will help you get that back again. And that's probably the biggest part that I'm proud of, to see what we've done for a lot of our members. But what I thought I would just mention this first is that it's very intriguing watching some of this stuff happen. I mean, a 66% net profit increase per member on average is a very abnormal number. And it doesn't come without a lot of work and effort and commitment on your guys' end. But a driven entrepreneur with the BTA system, it's a pretty unstoppable thing. And what we'll do now is I'll unpack exactly how we achieved those types of numbers with our members, and I'll really try and enlighten you guys on exactly the path that you need to follow to do this for your own business. So hopefully it's informative and give you some good insights. So I'll start, like I said, big picture, and then I'm going to get down to the specifics as we get into the content of what BTA is. But let's start big picture here. So what is BTA? It's a system for your business. It's a training platform for you to learn how to be a better business owner. And it's a structured group where you're every 2 weeks meeting with us, setting goals and being monitored to achieve success over the long term, right? So we offer things like financial planning, organizational structure help, understanding how to lead your workforce properly, having a recruiting strategy and a hiring and interviewing platform to work off of, having a CRM system set up properly, having like all this system stuff working in your company. And that's great and all, but it doesn't really make a massive impact unless we work with the owners as well and specifically help the owner become more skilled, right? For a lot of you, your business has outgrown your skill set, and you need to be more strategic with your time. You need to be a better interviewer when you're looking at set people. You need to be better at understanding sales and how to actually teach sales to others over the long term, and how to lead and develop, your subordinates underneath you. So there's a lot of things that we train and teach you as an owner to be more skilled, to be more tactile with your time and how you efficiently work with people and lead others on your team. And all of this stuff is housed in our structured accountability and in groups and events that we hold. So every 2 weeks, you start working with us on these projects. Every 2 weeks, you're implementing new ideas. You're getting feedback from your coach and your peers and your mentors. You're slowly being able to build this stuff out properly. We also have some pretty cool events where we get you out, and I'll speak a bit too later, but we get you out a couple times a year to meet with us in person and really start to kind of like get that in-person engagement kind of to that next level. You meet up with a bunch of our like-minded members and you get to know our community that we've created. So just a very brief overview of BTA, but that's kind of the three things: good systems for your business, good skills training for the owner, and overall structured accountability system for you to be a part of every 2 weeks to slowly chip away at all the projects we're going to bring forward to you as we build the company. So how it works, so after this video, if you're watching it, you should be in and around either maybe already booked one or you're about to be going through, or maybe have somebody watching this that's in the assessment phase. It's the time where we're going to spend with you to make sure this is a good fit. We don't want to bring you into this if it's going to be, a quick, learn a bit and then leave. We want to actually have members that are long lasting with us that are going to get a ton of value, will become raving fans, and where we get a lot of our work is from referrals. So having good people go through this program and get a lot out of this means a ton to us. Also, obviously for you, gives you a chance to get to know BTA and make sure this is a good buy for you and that you can actually invest in this long term. Next process is the MAP program. So that's basically going to enable you to have essentially a platform to work off of. So if I think about all the business systems and skills and things you're going to need to learn over the long term, it's good for you to know that ahead of time and have a action plan or a plan of attack, right? So almost like building a house, you have to have a blueprint before you build the house. So the map program really is that blueprint to enable you to make sure you know where all the walls are going, what materials you're going to be using, the timing of everything, the cost of everything. We can do all that ahead of time. And that's essentially the map program. The TREP program comes in right afterwards, and it starts to basically help you guys work on all the stuff that we built in MAP. So now that we have the blueprint, we can go install the floors and do the foundations and get the framing set up and the roof. And so we're actually going to go build stuff with you, and that's the TREP program. And that'll last multiple years, and I'll go over what that looks like. All with the idea of getting you to be more successful, all with the idea of getting you to get to these types of stats where you have more time, more money, more profit, and just a more generally sustainable company. So that's kind of like the general path that people follow. So get an assessment, move into a 6-week program called MAP, where we're kind of building out the blueprint for the company, and then go into track where it's a multi-year process where we're slowly implementing all these systems and slowly helping you become more successful in your company. That's that. So now let's dive a little deeper and let's get into some of the actual programs themselves. So the MAP program consists of 6 weeks where we're effectively going over a different topic each week to help you in your business. Now, this is a 3-hour meeting that you'll have online with a group of other entrepreneurs, and you're going to cover the 6 pillars that we've kind of identified are the biggest sticking points or restrainers that a lot of businesses find when they're trying to grow. So the first one is effective business planning and financial budgeting. Second is defining your organizational structure, so knowing basically who goes where and who does what. Third is professional recruitment and hiring, so helping you become a professional recruiter. I mean, it's a massive skill in today's labor market. Helping you understand how to train those new staff, helping you understand how to sell and how to train selling to somebody else on the team, and ultimately helping you understand how to set the, goals and really execute on them effectively so that all of this stuff can become a reality. So from a very high level, these are great topics, but what I thought I'd do just to make today a little more interesting and get you a little more informed is actually show you some samples of what this 6-week program even kind of looks like, and even just give you some general examples of the content you'll be interacting to with us. With BTA, there's 3 major things that we really pride ourselves on that really help any business owner be successful. One is content, which I'm going to show you a ton of. We've pre-drawn up almost everything for you, so you don't have to work and start from scratch on anything. Everything's been created from your job descriptions, your employment agreements, your standard operating procedures, your Excel files that track profitability. Like, everything's been created for you. You have to put your final tweaks on it, but ultimately we've created templates, and I'll show you what those look like. Another big part of our program is just the coaching. So it is having someone to speak to and mentor you as you go through all of this stuff. And ultimately in the 6 weeks, you're going to meet one of our key facilitators who's going to be helping you in getting that relationship started. And you start to get to know who we are. And then the final thing is just our community. We've got a pretty epic community. I think in the first 6 weeks of MAP, you're going to meet usually about 15 to 20 other business owners you're going to be working with, collaborating with, sharing your ideas with, and that'll grow into a much bigger piece when you get to know the rest of our membership as you grow into grow into our program long term. So that said, let's get into a bit of what MAP looks like. So when you start with Breakthrough Academy, you get access to a knowledge library that looks something like this. And essentially you log in, you have your own private login, and it allows you to get access to the course content that you're currently working on. So this is the first 6 weeks, basically part 1, part 2, part 3, and so on. Let me just show you what this actually looks like. So part 1, it's all about business planning and financial budgeting. And what we're really wanting to do in all of this is ultimately get you a business, I guess say, platform or dashboard to work off of. So it looks something like this. Now, I'm going to show you a bunch of stuff. Today, it's going to be pretty quick. We'll go back over this with you in your assessment. But the idea is that you have a dashboard where you can see the goals for the company, and you can see the actuals right here. And you start to see your key metrics if they're ahead or behind, right? And you can start to understand if your business is in turmoil or needs help in any key area. So we start with a budget. We essentially set up what was last year's actuals revenue. So you can see this is an example of 1.5 million. They spent about 39% on labor, 3% on subs, 19% on materials, and we start to see how the business performed and how efficient it was. We start to see, hey, this was a 39% profit margin for the company. Is that good? Is that bad? Well, we have 200 companies to gauge off of. We can tell you how you're doing versus the other people that we see in your industry. We can look at your overhead costs and start to identify, is there any kind of key areas that you might want to be spending more or less in, and really see how last year did. So this company made 10% and $154,000. Now, what's important is we set a budget for the year. So in the next fiscal year, this company is going for 1.5 to 4.5. That's a big jump. It's an example file, but it gives you an idea of kind of what they're looking for. They're looking to keep their margins the same. They're looking to spend more, though, on overhead. So they have more on their lease now. They have more on their fuel costs. They have more management staff and salary costs. They can just kind of start to budget line item by line item what they should be spending for this growing business and start to go down to the bottom and see, is it even worth it? Well, here's some big numbers. Identifying here, they went from $359,000 in overhead up to $1 million. Now, this is just a plan. It hasn't been spent yet, but it's pretty eye-opening to realize they're going to spend $1 million in overhead. They better do a hell of a lot more than 1.5, or they're going to be screwed, right? So seeing this ahead of time brings some of the reality of what it's going to take to grow, and ultimately, too, just to check, is this a profitable business venture? Looks like it is. Looks like the margins will stay similar, but the overall profit will jump. Now, this is all great and dandy, but it doesn't mean much unless you actually watch and track and monitor this stuff on a regular basis. So then we get you starting to do what's called fiscal year actuals, where we can start to get into what's actually happening. So here's a live update. A few weeks into the business, they've produced $150,000 worth of work. Their margins have gone from in labor a projection of 39%. They're actually only at 31% on labor. So they're saving some money on their jobs. And their overall margins is 55% versus a plan of 34. So they're quite profitable. And it's good to see that right early on in the beginning. Where we're getting all this data is every time you fill out a job cost guard, which is in this tab right here, this job cost guard tab down here, it's adding up. So the manager job for $10,000, we can see how much they spent on labor, materials, we can see how profitable they were, 60% margins on that job. You can see problem jobs. Here's a problem job at 11% profit. We can understand what happened here and who was involved in it. All the data is being tallied up at the top here and being automatically put in here for you. So as new jobs are coming in, you can live see how profitable the company is overall. Now, it's great and all to know your financials, but you also need to think about sales and production. So we come in here and we start to build a sales plan. So we say, hey, you're going for $2.5 million this year, let's say, just for example's sake, and you have an average job size of $5,000. Oops, that's 50,000. And if you look below, as I'm doing all this, these numbers are all changing. It's because it's automatically creating a sales plan for us. It's telling us exactly how many leads to get, how many estimates to do, how many jobs to book, and ultimately how many dollars to book on a week-by-week basis. So we can start to get a really good idea, are we ahead or behind on our sales plan, right? So if I up this number back to 4.5 million, coming over here, this is an example file, but you can see the plan tells them, and actually I can adjust it too. So for January, let's say they want to be at 5% of year-end booked. By February, they want to be at, say, 10% of year-end booked. And it automatically tells you, hey, you need to be at $450,000 of year-end booked, which makes sense. That's 10% of 4.5 million. Currently, based on your team's booking schedule, you're at 685,000, so you're ahead of schedule. But you can start to check in on this and see if you're ahead or behind at any given week and start to tell if is it because of lack of leads or estimates or jobs, and start to identify the problem early on. You can do the same thing with production. So let's put 4.5 million in here. And then you put in your charge rate. So it's we'll have to work through what that is, but it's basically an hourly rate that on average your guys or your people are producing. And from there, we can start to see how much revenue per week should be produced, how much revenue is actually being produced, and even hours. So if you work with employees or subs where you can start to look at how much labor force you need, you can see at peak season, you need 2,100 hours to be produced. So if that's the case, well, then we know kind of roughly how many people we need to recruit, because we go 2,100 hours divided by, say, 35 hours a week worked per person, which is a little more of the reality with vacation time and sick leave and all that kind of stuff. We need 60 people. And if you're sitting in January and you have 30 staff, you now have a recruiting stint from January till this is August 12th to get ready to get 30 more people. Now recruiting can be more proactive, right? Now all these numbers, as we're putting them in, are culminating on this dashboard. And this is what we use to coach you, so we can start to see the numbers for the company. This is also what you can use to coach your team. And this is where it becomes really powerful. So what we want to do is get an organizational structure now built that's actually based on goals. It's based on or deliverables. So this company is trying to hit 3.25 million, have a 17% margin, and have 180K corporate net income come through. Now what they're doing is they're giving each of their staff a mandate saying, hey, you need to deliver these dollars to be able to work, be able to be worth your salary. So the office admin is trying to keep AR below 2% net 30 days. Ops manager is trying to produce that 3.2 million, but at a 19% margin. So he's tracking that on the job cost cards. The sales guy is trying to book that 3.2 million, and we've realized it's 145 estimates for them to do that. People below here don't know anything about the dollars, but they know about hours. So they're trying to produce 15,000 hours with their crews each. And basically we know that 30,000 hours cumulative will equal this 3.2 million. And we can come down here and see how each individual person needs to perform as well. Now this gives like a mandate or a set of numbers for each person to kind of try and achieve. But in light of the numbers that they're trying to achieve, you're trying to give them numbers that they have control over as well. Now they can all be a part of the success of the company, okay? So this gives you an idea. This is kind of week 1 and a bit of week 2 of what we teach in our first 6 weeks, but it just gives you some idea of our content. It's quite in depth. We teach you a lot on how to do this. It takes a while to understand exactly how to do this, so don't worry, we'll take some time to help you on that. But the power of that alone gives you so much perspective, right? Because you can see what's going on. If you're running a business and you don't have this type of data accessible to you and you're growing, you're in deep doo-doo if you go in any wrong direction, but you can't see it. It's like trying to hit a piñata. If you're blindfolded and you're trying to whack at it, you'll hit it eventually, but it might take a while. But if you can see the data immediately, hey, look, our closing ratios are at 28% on a goal of being at 40%, which means we need to do a hell of a lot more quotes if we want to book the work we want to book, if we're only booking at 28%. That can now get you focused on improving your sales processes. But you can do that within a couple of weeks versus waiting a whole year to find out you didn't book the work you need and not even really knowing why, right? So again, that piñata mentality, you take the blindfold off, you can hit the piñata right on. It's our sales target, or it's our sales options. We're not hitting enough margins on them, and you can make that change right away, right? So that's week 1. Week 2 dives deeper into this org structure idea, this idea of how do you get all these people aligned where everybody's trying to hit goals within the organization. And we start to take those numbers from that organizational structure and start to build out employment agreements where we say how every single person needs to have a job description that points towards the company being successful. So if we just go to our sections here, we've got tons of resources for you. So pretty much every industry that we work with, we try and create all the resources for. So if you say you've got a project manager in a construction company, here's your employment agreement. So you can copy off this now and you can start to say, okay, here's a 9-page agreement that has all the deliverables for this project manager. So $1.5 billion produced at a 44% margin. Their accountabilities now break down how to hit those numbers. So to deliver on number 1 and 2, which is these 2 things here, you need to do these tasks every single day. And now we're bringing basically clarity to not only what you do in your job, but your job isn't just doing these tasks. Your job is hitting these numbers. And if you hit these numbers and you do these tasks, then you're doing your job, right? And now there's clarity on that. To back that up, we want them to report in on how they're doing every week. So there's an expectation on reporting right here. To help with that, we have some compensation structures that align with their goals. So they have their base salary, but then they have basically a production and gross profit bonus. This is for a project manager. So again, their success is your success. And now everybody is aligned on hitting the same goals together, okay? To help drive results in your team, this would be for your management team more, but we can give basically little mini goal setting files that they fill out. So every time they're sitting down in front of their computer, they're putting in their sales for the week, they're putting in their production for the week, and they're starting to see if they're ahead or behind. And that's giving you an indication of the overall company, but it's also giving them an indication of where they're at on their goals. So that's week 1 and 2. Week 3, we start to say, well, to get all these people, which you probably don't have all of them, we need to recruit. We need to be better at recruiting. So we get into how to reverse engineer an ideal candidate and then use that to find that person. See, most people when they recruit are saying, hey, we've got problems, let's go find a person to fix them. But first, I would challenge you and I would say, what does that person even look like? What are their strengths, their needs, their wants, their fears? What job are they currently doing? What makes them happy? What do they love about their job, hate about their job? Guess where the best place to find that information is? Somebody who already is doing that job. Ideally, if you've already got a really good person, if you want to carbon copy that person, sit down and interview that person, but help understand who they are so you can get more of them, right? So say you got an awesome project manager named Jack. Sit down with Jack, take him for lunch, and fill out this ideal candidate form where we give you a little template to fill out to find out who Jack actually is. Once you figure that out, build an ad that speaks to Jack's pains and needs, right? So here's an example of one that we drew up where it really sells the position, right? We're trying to go from recruiting being more of a recruiting thing to actually a sales and marketing process. Oops, let me go back in here. We join the team. So we get an ideal candidate profile drawn up. Whoops, I'm getting in the wrong sites here. There we go. And then we advertise it online with this very nicely drawn up template that you guys can use to basically draw up a really well done job description that sells the position to the ideal candidate. From there, we teach you how to do resume sorting. We then teach you how to do a proper interview where you can predict future performance based on past behavior. So interviewing itself is a bit of a science. I think a lot of people kind of sit down with somebody, they're like, great, he showed up for the interview, he's not drunk, I kind of like him, let's try him out and see how it goes. Really, in reality, you should be sitting down and looking at exactly what makes this person strong, exactly what makes this person weak. Start to look at some of their stories in their past, and you'll be able from that to predict future performance based on past behavior. So here's an example of one of the forms you'll be using with us, where we'll essentially be breaking down the agenda for the interview, but then within that, giving you a list of questions to ask to really understand a person, right? So does this person have tenacity, which is the preference to overcome challenges through pure hard work? Here's a list of questioning that allow you to probe into the person and get deeper and deeper and deeper. Asking surface level questions doesn't help. Are you a hard worker? What's the hardest work experience you've had? That's great. That gets the first, few questions going, but then you want to get in, tell me about a typical day. Tell me the hardest part of that day. Tell me about the hardest week or month that you had. Tell me how long that lasted for. Why did you leave that job? Keep getting deeper until you get to the specific stories, and you'll start to see patterns within people. So there's about 10 different things we teach you how to interview on, and these are all things that you cannot change in somebody. They're built inside of them. They're their personality. And we really encourage you to be interviewing on, basically personality traits over skill. You can train skill long-term in people. You can't train personality, right? That's a bit of week 3. Then we'll get into week 4, which is all about creating training materials, because what's in your brain needs to, at some level, be emulated down to the rest of the team. And you can't do that by just barking orders louder, right? At some level, you need to create some sort of training template that people can work off of. So we start with a skills breakdown list, which essentially allows us to know all the things that a role would require. So we look at the job description, we build out all the skills that are required. So here's a painter's skill set. And then we build what's called a competency model and a standard operating procedure. So comp models are kind of just like glorified checklists. They say, hey, Mr. Painter, here's all the things you need to do in your job. Job site setup, ladder safety, all this kind of stuff, preparation, painting, all this kind of stuff. And each thing can then be marked off as if they completed it successfully, partially completed, or not completed at all. And it gives you some semblance of like standardizing what's expected, right? Then you can take it even deeper and say, well, let's actually build a standard operating procedure off of each bullet point. So each bullet point, like initial job site setup, then has a paragraph description of how to do each piece. And to get really fancy with you guys, this is where a lot of the work has gone. We've taken the time for a lot of these industries to create a lot of this stuff. So again, if you're in construction, you have a project manager that you need some stuff built for, here's a 64-page manual on exactly how they do their job. Everything from arrival and intro to employee training to deficiency inspections to material ordering. All of this stuff is here. Now it's pre-drawn up, so you can take it essentially and start to manipulate it and work it to work for you. So we've got all these different major roles from GM to lead hand to financial coordinator, and we've got not only an example file for you to work off of, but we also got a Word file for everything. So you just put your logo in here. Here's all the yellow sections where you customize your stuff. Right? Same file, but now it's customizable. So this will really shortcut a lot of the things that normally take you forever to do. And to be honest, a lot of people know that they should eventually do this. They just don't even know where to start. And something like this really gets them started. So that is some glimpse into the MAP program itself. So we go more into optimizing sales process. The final topic, which we talked to cover in week 6, really sets up the implementation that we're going to go into with you that goes on for the long term. So discipline, goal setting, and execution, really start to say now, it's great and all that you've learned all this stuff and you've got it all kind of like, in your brain somewhere, but let's write it down into a manageable chunk list of month-by-month activities that you're going to focus on. Right? So for the month of January, we've taught you all this stuff. You need to now do it. So you need to understand your key numbers. You need to set a budget. You need to set a sales plan. You need to set up a system to get the numbers weekly. You need to set up a chart of accounts, and you need to have a bookkeeper help you out. In February, now we're going to focus on the team. So we're going to redo the org structure. We're going to get job descriptions in place. We're going to start to create a plan so that your team can be more successful. March, we might get into a little bit more of recruiting and finding your ideal candidate and so on. So we're going to create an implementation plan with you to help you know how to do all of this stuff properly. We're then going to start meeting with you every single 2 weeks to help you start to implement all of this stuff. And we're going to do it either as a big group or a small group, depending on the program you come in with us on. We're going to supplement all this learning with how-to videos. So you can see here's how to recruit top talent. Here's a little how-to video that comes along with a bunch of downloads and essentially walks you through every single piece of how to do your business, and even has a guideline walkthrough as well. So we really tried to create almost like building your business is almost like putting together IKEA furniture at this point. We've got every single resource for you to help you through your business long term, and slowly, piece by piece, implementation item by implementation item, you can start to build these things more methodically. Now that would be a lot, but we even have more. That's a lot, and it does take a couple of years to do, but we even do more with you. We monitor all these numbers. So when we can get you up and running on this and we can start to see the business itself, we can coach you on very specific strategies on how to make these numbers better, prescribe you with certain sessions and topics to work on to improve the systems of the company, and slowly systemize the business, but in light of what the company actually needs live based on the data. Right? So we're really, in a lot of ways, like I alluded to earlier, we came from a franchise system. We're in a lot of ways creating a franchise system for you to be a part of without you ever having to buy a franchise, right? So the Trek program is what happens in this after these 6 weeks. So you go through 6 weeks, you'll learn a bunch of content, you figure out when you probably should start to build it out, but it really is a time of, it's kind of like building a blueprint. It's like, let's build a blueprint for the house before we actually build the house. Trek is all about actually building the house, right? So we have bi-weekly accountability meetings online, usually done in a group, so either a group of 2 or 3 business owners or a group of larger of 15 to 20, depending on the program you go with. We then have one-on-one support from your coach, so that's available to everybody. So we all know you need one-on-one time as well, so we give you some time there. You have access to all of our how-to videos in our knowledge library, all of our templates and frameworks, so you can build off of them. And then we have really cool masterminds and get-togethers where we get all these business owners together in different industries to share ideas and work together from all over North America, which is really, really cool. So that's kind of that. Finally, we do want to see you in person eventually. So we have 2 big events a year, one in the summertime and one in the winter. The winter one's extra special because every single year you go through with us, you have a new fiscal plan, right? So the next January, you're going to have a new financial plan, a new org structure, a new list of implementation items. So it's kind of like a reset time where we meet you up in person. Every year we usually go to some mountain. So we'll spend a day doing a strategic plan, get you to share that with the other members. And then from there, we'll go out snowboarding and you know, we did ice climbing and dog sled racing and snowmobiling actually last year, which was pretty cool. So we have a summer retreat, a winter retreat that we do that. And then we have a summer retreat, which is more based on improving yourself as a leader, getting away, getting some headspace in the middle of summer when it's really crazy, and starting to understand how to strategize yourself back into hitting your end goals. So there's 2 retreats we do a year, and there's a few other little ones we do as well that we can tell you about once we meet with you. But depending on the program you're in, those are the 2 major ones. So that is that. Sure you're wondering kind of rough pricing. So this is how it all works. We start with you in the MAP program, which is that first 6-week program. It's $3,850 Canadian. So for the United States people, it's a slightly different price, usually a better deal, about 20% off, depending on the exchange rate, but a little bit easier for you guys as far as price goes. And then depending on the implementation program you choose, it's $850 a month or $1,850 a month. The difference is just the level of support that we're giving you in coaching and integration that we're integrating with you in the company, which can be talked about in your next meeting with us. We can get into the specifics of what that actually looks like. So that's pretty much it. Like I said earlier, BTA is essentially here to help professionalize the trades and home service industry, to set a standard for everything, to give you templates and processes for everything so that you don't have to do all the guesswork. The hard work's been done. It's been done many, many times over too by thousands of other entrepreneurs. We're just the ones to say, hey, let's build this all perfectly for you guys. Let's build a system for you guys to get it implemented properly. Let's slowly give you the freedom and peace of mind you need to actually grow this business to the way you originally wanted to. So that's what we've done. Next steps is to book a assessment. So a one-on-one assessment will basically be between you and one of our key assessment people. They'll walk you through all the parts of BTA, make sure you fully understand what you're getting involved into, because this is not a short-term relationship. This is something we're going to help you over the long term. They'll also be filling you out a bit too, because we do really pride ourselves on having very high-level members that all work and think and act the same. We really want people that fit the mold in BTA so that you can get the most value out of what we're doing with you. So as long as that's something that's of interest to you, make sure you reply back to the email that this video was sent through, or you get in touch with us off of our website at btacademy.com. So BT stands for Breakthrough Academy.com, and basically request for more information. If you're already in an assessment, awesome. We'll see you then, and we'll start to really get into it with you to make sure that this is the right fit for the both of us. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll let you guys get back to your day. Okay, thanks for watching.